Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Johnson. I'm reading from my book. I know where I've been, I'm just not sure where I'm going. Reading the article Relax, Trust. And it's based on Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, the 5th and 6th verse.
Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. It was the middle of the night. I was sleeping. My home phone rang. Trying to collect myself, I could see from my clock that it was 1:30 a.m. I cleared my throat as best I could and answered. It was Karen, a professional acquaintance who was beginning to have anxiety attacks on a regular basis. Single, she started to lose her business at the same time she lost her relationship, and now she was beginning to feel inner stress on a. She attributed her anxiety at the time she consultation with a bankruptcy lawyer which I had referred her to. As she had left it, she became very aware that she knew it seemed to be falling apart. She had no idea what she was going to do in the near future. "I'm at the beach, can you come get me?" she said. I took Karen pretty good by now, so there was no reason not to go to her aid. There are times when middle-of-the-night calls have to be taken with discretion, especially from a single guy like myself. You can't always go in the direction who needs help wants you to go. They taught us in that you should never put yourself in jeopardy by going to a place you could be injured, physically or emotionally. Sometimes you can't always follow that. When I was young, I followed those lines pretty close. Even then, I'd sometimes get myself in trouble. It is said that one of the wisest things Billy Graham did in his early years of ministry is not allowing with another woman alone, and he always had either his wife or an aide with him or a staff member accompany him at all times. Some of the best ministries and businesses have been ruined by the problem of it, and you know the names as well as I do. Older, I found I wasn't quite as careful because I've come to limits, although so I think. My own changed concerning my relationship. So when Karen asked for help, I knew it was a cry for personal pain, and I should try to help. She gave me directions as to where she was, and I told her I'd be there soon. However, I must admit that I did not hurry, as I probably should in an emergency. Instead, I turned on the coffee intended for early morning, but not this early, and grabbed some go on the beach in an emergency clothes, which consisted of some jeans and a freebie shirt from Sprint for using up so many minutes. I finally jumped in the car and hit the empty street to the beach, parking at approximately where Karen had said she would be, and walking towards the ocean. The smell of the water was invigorating and refreshing. The warmth of the night under the moon grew present, and as I got to the sand, I could see Karen sitting and staring in the water. I sat down next to her with a, "Hi, I'm here. Are you okay?" She said, "I feel so depressed, so hurt. I've cried and cried and it doesn't do any good. I'm not sure I want to go on living." They taught me in graduate school that any mention of possible suicide is a desperate call for help, no matter how easily spoken or utilized for the purpose of manipulation. I said nothing. I listened enough to Karen to know that the problem was loneliness and money. "How do I find myself?" she said. "What do I do?" I guess as a counselor I'm supposed to have all the answers to that, but as is often the case, sometimes I don't know. I didn't know what to say, and so I did the only wise thing. I said nothing. Often, all someone wants is somebody else's ear anyway. Chance to talk when the rest of the world just doesn't listen. But you never know if just listening is enough. So we stared at the moon, felt the freshness of the breeze, and just beheld the majestic sight of the sky meeting the waves. I spoke only for the purpose of acknowledging pain.
You know, it always helps me when I see a view like this, that there's a greater picture than we can see. A world bigger than our own personal universe. Profound? Maybe. But somehow I knew it wasn't enough to calm Karen's inner. I took her for coffee, an all-night restaurant, seemed to be a bit calmer, but I could expression, still very troubled. I said a quiet prayer for her as she got out of the car into her home. Months passed. I had not heard from Karen. I was busy in the everyday responsibilities of walking down the hall with my mind on whatever beautiful young girl, dressed in a very alluring blouse near the reception area. I could hear this attractive figure say, "Is Dr. Johnson?" Amusingly, and with song in my voice, I almost jokingly said, "I'm." The lady turned around. It was Karen. "Karen," I said, "you look like a different person. You look beautiful." "Thank you," she said. "Have you got a minute?" "Always," I said. We sat down at my desk and she talked of success, of happiness, of enjoying life. Business had suddenly had a turnaround. She stated she was doing very well. She thanked me for being a friend. "Well, I didn't do very much," I said. "But tell me, what made the change? What happened to you? Remember that night you met me on the beach? I'm still troubled." "I know," I said. About a week later, I felt even worse than I had ever felt. Instead of calling you ex-boyfriend, and he was meaner than ever, stating he had started a new life and I was not to bother anymore. I had creditors calling day and point where I felt I couldn't stand it. I was fed up, and I'd go to the beach in my life. I went to the same place where you and I met the week before, and I sat down and began to think how I would end my demise. Should I simply be more dramatic? So while I was sitting there during the time of my greatest frustration, I couldn't even cry, which made tears come out of my eyes without any sound. And then I felt like someone was behind me. I thought it might be you, so I turned around, but there was no one there, at least not that I could see. So I turned and continued to look at the ocean, and then I felt the presence again. And this time I got scared that someone was about to hurt me. So I looked around again, and still nobody there. I even called out and asked if anybody was there, but there was no answer. And then I heard a voice, just as clear as I hear my own voice right now, and it said, "Relax, trust." Again, I looked around. I thought I was going crazy. I tensed up, as if my entire body was questioning what I heard. But I heard it again. "Relax, trust." Suddenly I felt a peace like I've never known. God was speaking to me, Keith. He was doing it through either one of his angels or Christ himself. I don't know which, but he was speaking to me, I know that. The rest of her visit was a bit of a blur to me. She said some more words, said her goodbyes, and that we would get together again soon. I've seen her twice since that visit. I went to her business one day to check on her, and staff and customers surrounded her. And then I saw her at a party where she announced her engagement to this man she had met. So did God really visit her on the beach that night? Well, who am I to say? I don't know. But the results of Karen's life, the peace and the prosperity that she now knows, says he did. She attributes to his concern during her night of intensive struggle. She's convinced that God cares of us personally and is intensively involved in every aspect of our life. We hurt, he hurts. When we cry, he cries with us. If we're willing to listen, he'll speak. Is there some inner turmoil in your life that constantly plagues you? Do you feel lonely, desperate, like you're the only one who cares or nobody cares about you? I think there's a bigger picture than you and I understand. And I heartily recommend that you and I take Karen's advice and listen to the voice that spoke to her on the beach. Relax. Trust.